Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who loves a bicycle kick. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I love a bicycle kick. I love that one quite a bit.
Yeah, we're going to be talking Cristiano Ronaldo today. Is this weird? Has the Total Soccer Show just turned into, or the soccer world has turned into, there's just amazing goals and you can just do podcasts about them?
Amazing goals from the big name players.
Yeah.
Leo Messi ball in your court tomorrow.
Yes, yeah, Messi's going to have to dribble past 10 people again and score, so we can talk about that tomorrow.
Keyword there being again, because that happens on the regular.
So, if you haven't heard the Champions League scores, look away now. Real Madrid went to Turin and beat Juventus 3-0 away.
Yep.
2 goals from Ronaldo, one of them being that bike, the other one from Marcelo, which actually, low-key, might be my favourite.
Yep.
Yeah. And then also Bayern went to Sevilla and they won 2-1 away. We'll have a slightly shorter mention of that game towards the end of today's show.
Slightly.
Okay, let's get into it then.
Let's do it.
Real Madrid 3, Juventus 0, Real Madrid 3
Key point there, yeah.
is the correct way to say that. I mean, there's some tactical stuff we can maybe get into later, but I really do want to talk about the goals. Okay, let's start with the first goal, which actually brings up a lot of tactical concepts, right?
I think that is the key one to go with.
Yeah.
Because when we saw the lineups, what we were told, what we read, what we saw was that Juve came out in a 4-4-2, essentially.
Kind of.
Arguably, maybe 4-4-1-1, but either way, you've got 4 defenders, 4 midfielders, which logically means 2 central midfielders.
Yep.
That's always risky against a Madrid team that are usually playing a 4-3-3, sometimes doing that 4-4-2 diamond. Either way, they're going to have a lot of numbers in the middle.
So at the very least, you're going to have Casemiro, Modric, Kroos for Real Madrid.
Yeah.
You should immediately be scared. You should not be thinking, I'm going to play a 2-man central midfield against these guys, and I'm sure it'll go fine.
Yeah, and so what I think Juve tried to do then
Sam Allardyce would.
was, he would, and he would back himself. What I think they tried to do then, Juventus, was have basically 2 banks of 4, but 2 very compact and sort of narrow banks of 4.
Yes.
So it was always where the ball was, you had 4 in front of you, you had 4 behind them. If the ball moved to the right-hand side of the field for Madrid, those banks slid over. And so it was always basically keeping numbers between the ball and the goal.
Yep.
At least that was the plan for roughly the first 3 minutes.
And the theory is you kind of have 4 central midfielders if the right mid and left mid tuck in alongside the other 2 central midfielders, right? And it's a weird midfield makeup because Pjanic was out. I can't remember if suspended or injured, but he's a very important sort of deep-lying midfielder for them. He's out. The central midfield 2...
Benatia out as well via suspension.
Okay, but the midfield 2 is Khedira, who you would expect, but then Bentancur alongside him, and then Alexandro as the left mid. He's normally the left back, and Douglas Costa as your right mid, which makes sense if you're doing a lot of attacking and he's your right winger. But I think as a right mid, when you have more defensive responsibility, that's a much bigger ask for Douglas Costa. He's mostly good at dribbling.
He is mostly good at dribbling and attacking and causing problems and creating pressure. And I think, to your point, when you're asking him to do defensive things, maybe that's not something that he is always going to think of right away.
He's not as experienced at it, if nothing else.
And that's basically where that first goal comes from.
Yep.
It is essentially, I think Madrid were sort of prepared for this approach from Juventus, and they let Isco, with that kind of 4-4-2 diamond or 4-3-3, whatever you want to go with, Isco had the freedom to roam.
He is the diamond.
Yeah, but he's also the diamond who can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And so sometimes he's on the right, sometimes he's in the middle, but in those opening 10 minutes, he was often on the left.
Yeah.
And that kept causing problems because Douglas Costa would try to step to Marcelo. He would think, De Chilio, who's starting at right back, will kind of come with me, and then it won't be a problem because then everybody will be marked off. But Douglas Costa was staying, or he would go to Marcelo. De Chilio would stay with Isco, but then that left Ronaldo dropping in, or sometimes De Chilio would stay with Ronaldo, and then Isco is free.
This is the genius of Zidane's Real Madrid system, is the 4-3-1-2, I'm going to call it, kind of diamond. There are no wingers, right? Even though Ronaldo's there, he's more of a centre-forward alongside Benzema. Then Isco's there, and he's just this free-floating attacking midfielder who can overload whichever wing he feels like overloading. He chose Real Madrid's left, Juventus's right, and I'm not sure if it's a coincidence that that's where Douglas Costa was.
Yeah, I don't think it was. And so in this sequence, essentially, Isco makes a run in behind the defense, doesn't get the ball right away, recycles that run. And I think the key part would be that Douglas Costa probably should have tracked Isco. Instead, he sees Bentancur near enough to him to sort of do the hand gesture, pass him off. The problem then is that you're sending one of your 2 central midfielders out onto the right flank. Bentancur had clearly been told, don't get caught drifting out wide. So as soon as that pass doesn't go to Isco, he comes back inside. But now no one is really aware that Isco is standing on the sideline completely unmarked. Marcelo able to split the 2 defenders. suddenly Real Madrid are in on goal.
And it totally looks like right back De Chilio hasn't done his job. Because I remember looking at this the first time thinking, where's the right back? There's a massive hole at right back that Isco's able to run into to put that cross in for Ronaldo to score. It's because De Chilio has been sort of pulled upfield and Douglas Costa hasn't helped him out. And that's why. But it's not De Chilio's fault.
No, it's not at all. And I think if it's anyone's fault, as we've said, it's Douglas Costa's, but maybe it's also Marcelo's. Yep, because and he did this a couple times. I think he does do this in the lead up to the third goal as well. That rather than when he makes a run forward, rather than have the person who's ahead of him on the left flank also move further forward, which is what maybe we would do at amateur level. I thought it was really interesting that he basically tells that guy, be it Isco or whomever
Ronaldo
it is,
in the second
half.
He'll say to anyone.
Yeah, you stay there and makes that overlapping run.
Yep.
And the purpose of that is twofold. Same as the box. Yep. One is that it basically keeps that player in that prime position so that they don't have to adjust. They can stay there. They're not just running to the corner flag and potentially drifting offside. But number two, Marcelo making that overlapping run either makes another player come wide to deal with that overload, or they don't, and then you have an overload.
Yep, and that is how Isco, in the end, I think Marcelo does a nice rollover, then split. He splits De Chilio and Costa, who Costa in all this has basically just chased the ball around.
Pretty much.
Like an inexperienced defender that he is.
He ends up standing next to De Chilio like, I'm helping.
Yeah. Like Ralph Wiggum.
Yeah.
I'm defending. Marcelo splits them with a simple sort of roll and pass through the middle. Isco's away. He only has Bentancur sort of blocking him down the sideline. And I'm going to say he kind of tricks Bentancur. It ends up nutmegging him, right? But I think Bentancur is trying to just lift his leg off the ground and block the cross. But Isco doesn't cross. He does the low cutback instead, which finds Ronaldo.
And it's not just that. It's that it's like the low passed cutback. It's not even that like driven ball into the box to see what happens. Because even then, I think that raised leg from Bentancur might cut that out. It is a picked out pass. And I think the other key component here is that you have, it seems like Chiellini marked up on Ronaldo and then Barzagli on Benzema. And Benzema does a very crafty little thing, which is he grabs Barzagli's hand and kind of pulls him towards him, being Benzema, and then runs around him. So he essentially twists Barzagli, but he twists him.
Does he literally twist his arm?
Yep, into the path of Chiellini, and then Chiellini basically can't get it between those two to get to Ronaldo in time. So then there's kind of like an almost obstruction.
It's gridlock. It's like a traffic jam, and Chiellini's late for work, and he just can't do anything to get there.
He just has to sit there helplessly as somebody zooms by him to get to work faster and get that promotion. In this case, it's Ronaldo for the goal.
Promotion to the semi-finals, it seems like. One other point on this goal. One extra point. The outside of the finish from Ronaldo. Very crafty, very nice. Jordan Morris would be very proud of it. It's the idea of the low cutback. If you remember, back in the last season's Champions League final, I remember Madrid players afterwards, I think it was Modric, said that Zidane had told them, this Juventus team, is very good at defending crosses. Don't waste your time crossing the ball in because Chiellini's going to get there. Barzaghi's going to get there. Back in the day, it was Bonucci as well. Instead, cut it back, pass it low. It's much harder to deal with. And I think they just took that advice into this game and scored inside 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I think from there, I don't think Juventus really were able to adjust too much, at least until the end of the first half and halftime, because you saw Madrid sort of just have possession. There wasn't much pressure. I think Juventus always were set up to sit back, frustrate, and then break through Higuain and Dybala. And when you're 1-0 down, sitting back doesn't really work. And so Madrid had a lot of time on the ball and were kind of able to dictate play.
Did you notice this? Every time the game kind of sped up and it threatened to be sort of an end-to-end type game, you would suddenly see someone like Modric or Kroos or Casemiro would put their foot on it in midfield and be like, okay, so slow it down, short passes. They're not really going to come chase us. We can get away with just absolutely killing the tempo. Not great entertainment value when you're watching it live, but it was a very effective, I'm going to call it a game management tool.
I would say that most teams, like the manager's job isn't to entertain, it's to win. Madrid, it's a little bit of both, I think, is how that team works. But still, I think in the end, they probably did that.
Isn't this sort of I don't know if genius is too strong a word, but the success of Zidane is that he's got this team that isn't sort of taking huge risks, right? It does slow things down and bottle the opposition up, but then you still end up with moments of absolute sort of joyous soccer. So when you just watch the highlights, you see that Ronaldo goal, you see that other Ronaldo goal, the bike, and you see Marcelo's goal, and it looks like a sort of really free-flowing type situation. But it's actually very structured and well thought out.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think Keith Costigan made this point for Fox Sports. You and I have made it in the past, as have many others, that like you have Gareth Bale sitting on the bench. I don't know another manager at Madrid who would be able to maybe get away with that. I think
you have James out on loan somewhere else.
Yeah, but I think you would have a lot of talking in the ear of Bale needs to start, Bale needs to be there, and it's Zinedine Zidane having faith in his players and those players rewarding that faith with a stellar performance and a 3-0 win.
Can we talk about the bike then?
I mean, we have
people,
to.
People will be asking, why haven't you talked about the bike yet?
Yeah.
It is a magnificent bicycle kick goal from Cristiano Ronaldo. Are we confident it's definitely a bike and not just an overhead kick?
Yes.
Because he does the revolution.
The full rotation, yeah.
It looks like you might be pushing the pedals in midair upside down. Yeah.
I think so. Because it's the only way to get, the only way for like a mere mortal to get that level of elevation and power behind the ball. For Ronaldo, I don't know. He's got significantly more core strength than I do. He does a few more crunches every day.
A few?
I believe he does something like 1,000 every day.
And that's 1,000 more than Taylor?
I sit up in bed when I start the day, so that's one.
Oh, one. Do you wake up and go, one?
I don't, but I will now. Take that day. I've already worked out. Now I'm going to have fried rice for breakfast.
You might need to layer a few things on top of the crunches. All right, let's talk about this goal.
Sure.
Here's the thing that most people won't be saying is it starts with Lucas Vazquez.
Yep,
so
sure
Lucas
does.
Vazquez has come on, and Real Madrid have changed their formation slightly, right? I think Benzema comes off, Lucas Vazquez comes on, then it's Ronaldo as a centre forward on his own.
Yep.
Isco is sort of underneath him. It's 4-4-1-1 more or less. Lucas Vazquez is right mid. He comes charging across to sort of slide tackle / intercept Dybala, I believe it is. A really sort of semi-dangerous tackle if he'd connected with anyone.
Yeah. But he did not.
Yeah.
And then he's basically able to put that ball back. It ends up going wide to Marcelo. Marcelo plays it long, and there's some chaos there. We'll get to what happens specifically, but I just want to say that basically after that tackle, Vazquez is up, and at slowest, probably a 70% jog forward, and then you can clearly see him accelerate because he is that one who ends up forcing the shot that forces Buffon to make the save, that then leads to the spill, that then leads to the cross, that then leads to the bicycle.
Can we talk about what leads to that sort of first chance then?
Sure.
So, after Vazquez's tackle, it pops out to man of the moment, in my opinion, Marcelo, who, it's Ronaldo, isn't it, is the man of the moment, but also Marcelo.
For us, it's Marcelo.
Yeah.
Strangely, but yes.
This ball from Marcelo is weird and good. It's got some weird sort of backspin, is it?
I think what he does is he doesn't follow through. So as soon as he hits the ball, like his foot stops, so it stops in the ground. And I think he hits it with his left foot with the sort of outside laces of his left foot.
Yeah.
So it has a weird like sideways spin on it. On top of
it's
that,
going to bend, isn't it, as well? So it's really confusing for Chiellini, and he's got Ronaldo chasing down on him. It's raining, so the ground is all weird.
That's the key thing, yeah. It's bending out, and it has that sideways spin. So I think that's where Chiellini is a little bit uncertain. And then, the rain is always going to exacerbate the situation for the defender.
So it looked to me, if Chiellini hadn't come sliding across and basically took it away, Buffon might have been able to step and catch this.
I think so. And I think also off air, you kind of nailed the thought process of Chiellini, which is that I think he's trying to put it out of bounds for a throw-in. And I think the reason why he's trying to do that is when he last sort of looks back with the confidence of, I have time to look back. I don't think Buffon is coming off his line, or at least he's not coming off aggressively to claim that ball. Meanwhile, Chiellini is keenly aware, difficult to say, that Ronaldo is right next to him, and also it's Cristiano Ronaldo. So I think he kind of does the math and thinks, I don't think Buffon's going to get there. Ronaldo might. I'm putting this out to safety. But I think in that whole thought process, even if it's only a quarter second, it's enough for him to stop evaluating the situation overall, doesn't see the spin, doesn't think about the conditions, and also doesn't realize that Buffon actually could have gotten there.
Yeah, and so he ends up getting a really awkward sort of half touch on it that just pokes it past Buffon. Ronaldo can chase it, turns around.
Could have guessed that was not his intent.
It absolutely was not. Back to Vazquez. Vazquez's shot is saved. Got to say, great save from Buffon.
Oh, yeah.
He sort of gets... Does he get a fist to it and manages to punch it?
He does, because the first thing he does is close down Ronaldo so that Ronaldo can't just have a shot on an open goal. So even though the ball spills wide, like outside the 6-yard box near the touchline, Buffon still has to get there.
He runs over like a defender almost,
he definitely does.
Like a centre-back just shielding him. Yeah.
Until there's more cover, but even when there's more cover, by then the ball's already being dropped back to the rapidly advancing Lucas Vazquez, who hits that shot. But Buffon does the sprawling save, and it's not just the save it's the fact that it's like the strong wrists
Yep.
that punch that ball outside of the 18.
Not bad for an old man.
But given that Madrid were crashing and Juve maybe not getting back into shape fast enough,
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
you then have the ball played back across.
So it's Carvajal who chips it up for Ronaldo. I got to say, on first viewing, I really thought that maybe this is a situation where Ronaldo maybe could have got a card for dangerous play. Because I feel like anytime you have your sort of bicycle kick and your foot's that high off the floor and De Sciglio is jumping with him to try and head it, I thought that De Sciglio had to duck out of the play to avoid getting kicked in the face by Cristiano Ronaldo, which to me would make it dangerous play. You'd made it so dangerous that De Sciglio didn't want to put his head where your cleats were.
Yes. I mean, I think there's a part of me that would say even if that were the case...
Yeah, spoiler alert, I was wrong.
Yeah. I would still say that there are center backs. I would say Sergio Ramos is, even though he clearly likes his pretty face, is going to put his face in there to try to win that ball. And I do think that like you've got to try to make that play if you can. But I think the other key point here is that maybe De Sciglio not actually making that aggressive of a play on the ball.
So it looks like he backs out because of Ronaldo's boot. But when you watch it, he's actually going for the ball. It's just that Ronaldo gets there first. So De Sciglio kind of follows through with the header, but just there's no ball to head because it's already it's on Ronaldo's laces. Ronaldo's upside down laces.
And I think, like, if you imagine this not as a bicycle, but just as a header, because of the angle and approach that De Sciglio has taken, basically for him to make a play on the ball, he's going to have to go through Ronaldo. And so there's always actually a risk of, instead of it being dangerous play, that he runs into Ronaldo and he's not going in straight up, he's going in at an angle. That could easily be a penalty.
So why does Ronaldo bike it? Why isn't it just a Ronaldo header? Is it because the cross is slightly behind him?
I think it's because it's slightly behind him, and he also, I think he has to adjust his run because he has run into an offside position. I think it's Barzagli drops back to put Ronaldo onside when that ball is served. But I think Ronaldo is trying to make sure he's onside even with that drop from Barzagli. So I think he's moving forward as the ball is played in. So I think he kind of puts himself in that situation where the momentum means he can't then stop, change, go back, and aggressively meet that ball unless he does the bike.
All right, so 2 goals for Ronaldo. Doesn't get a hat-trick despite multiple extra chances, but no one's going to be too worried about that because he has now scored in 10 Champions League games in a row. It's a run that started against Juventus in the final last year, I believe, and goes all the way through to every group stage game, every knockout game so far. Could he be the man that scores in every game of the Champions League for a whole season? That's too much to ask, isn't it?
The only thing hurting him is that with this 3-0 win away, he might not need to play in that return leg. That's the one.
We probably won't watch, will we?
We'll
check in on the highlights.
We'll keep a passive eye while doing other things. But we have one more goal to talk about.
We do. It's my favourite. He is, I think he's my favourite player in Real Madrid. He might be my favourite Brazilian player. It's Marcelo, the left back who can do it all.
I think it's my favorite to watch from like the standpoint of what you and I do, where we break things down and watch it 15 times to see like, ooh, that little flick was amazing. Ronaldo's the one that I'll be watching over and over and over again. But yes, I understand why you love this one because it's Marcelo again doing that sort of like, no, you stay there, I will make that run.
It's Ronaldo who tells us to stay.
But then he like cuts inside. He has the 1-2 with, I believe it's Isco again.
It's the nice outside of the foot, like curved pass. And then he gets that back. Then he rolls it again. Then he squares it. I'm not sure who he squares it to.
Ronaldo
through Bentancur's legs again. Second nutmeg of the game on Bentancur. That's a rough day for the Uruguayan.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But then I guess he's not the only one at fault here because then Marcelo runs through. Chiellini gives him like a tug back and tries to pull him, maybe just put him off a little bit. Marcelo's having none of that.
He rides a Chiellini foul.
He certainly does. Then he chips Buffon with his right foot.
Almost.
I guess Buffon gets a little bit of a leg to it, which sets it up for Marcelo to power knee that ball into the back of the net.
And I've got to say, for all the nice 1-2s and sort of deft ball control, my favourite thing about this goal is the knee finish from Marcelo. Because it's that perfect thing of like, is it like form and function? You know what I'm saying? It's like the design ideal, right? Is that it looks great and it looks fun to do it, but it's also the most effective part of his body at that point is to get his knee. Say get your knee over the ball when you shoot, right? He took that very literally and got his knee over the ball and kneed it in.
And because he does it with his knee, but the movement he does, because I say it's like a ninja knee because he does that like power-up kick.
Yeah.
But really, it's almost a reverse bicycle, because if you imagine the form of riding a bicycle, like he's got the knees up, and that's basically what he does to put that ball in the back of the net.
So two bicycle
It's a reverse bicycle, yes. And worth noting as well that two people who did not listen to the Total Soccer Show's weekend review were DeCilio and Alexandro, because both of them, when that ball goes back to Marcelo, stop and put their hands in the air saying, oh, he's offside, except that they very clearly kept him on by a good half yard.
Yep, and just standing there with your arm in the air.
Not so much. Not so much. But I think at that point, it's just
Learn
frustration.
from Joey Jones.
Yeah. I think at that point, it's just frustration, and like you're kind of not in it anymore at that point, because you realize you're 3-0 down or about to be 3-0 down. Also, probably doesn't help, speaking of frustration, that you've just had Paulo Dybala sent off for his second yellow.
Sent off like 2 or 3 minutes after Ronaldo's second goal. So it's 2-0, exactly. Then you lose Dybala. 4, what? So early in the first half, or in the first half, definitely dives, right?
Yes.
It's as if he left his foot back to get hooked, but didn't actually make contact with Casemiro and then just went down.
And I think we've only watched that replay a couple times, but I think the thing that really stood out for both of us is the fact that as soon as he hits the ground, you see Casemiro turn and gesture for the card, which I don't love, but you have that, and you have Sergio Ramos immediately screaming in his face. And there isn't that momentary, like you and I know there are times when you make a little bit of contact and you're like, oh, but I got the ball. They're like, no, like, and you do like hands up, like, no, I got ball. To be like, that is a dive, it means that you are very angry about the situation.
Outraged.
Yes.
They were outraged. But so we got a yellow for that, and then he got a second yellow for
a boot to Carvajal.
Essentially, I mean, kind of a dumb, clumsy tackle on Carvajal. He didn't really have too many complaints about being sent off, right?
He did not.
He had a wry smile, but he didn't protest for more than 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think if anything, his facial expression conveyed that it's been a frustrating season for him. It's been a little bit up and down. There've been moments of brilliance. There've been moments of frustration, and this was kind of that like he. In a game where it did feel like maybe he had that sort of, strange to say with all the goals we've talked about, that Isco role of like go out there, create, cause problems, create havoc. He kind of didn't do that. He got fouled. He was frustrated. He missed some chances.
A few moments where he just got away from someone, then the next person would get him, or he'd get fouled, or that, him and Higuain would have like a slight connection, but then someone would stop it. It was again really good defensive performance from Real Madrid.
Yes,
professional.
With that in mind, worth noting, we checked the official UEFA match report. It was a second yellow. We thought for a minute, because we only saw the red come out, that it might have just been a straight red. It was a second yellow, so only a 1-game suspension if they somehow pull it back in the return leg. Maybe more. And worth noting is that
there'll be no semi-final.
Sergio Ramos picked up a yellow card in this game, which means he is suspended for the return leg. Though with them being 3-0 up, maybe that won't be such a major issue.
They'll probably be okay, right? I mean, are we taking this too lightly? It seems a big ask for Juve to go to the Bernabeu and
I think if
3 or 4-0.
If Juve had finished one of those chances, there's 2 very good saves from Keylor Navas, and then there's some like kind of 50-50 misses from Juve. If it were 3-1 or 2-0, maybe you could see it more. Nothing is impossible, but it's going to be a big ask. And as you said, maybe that will be on the small screen if and when we rewatch or watch the next round of games.
We'll talk Bayern Sevilla in Sevilla. Excuse me.
Oh boy.
Excuse me.
You've been hearing too many English commentators today.
Right. But first, today's show is sponsored by Fan Futsal. Fan Futsal is the different type of fantasy football game. First of all, it's not, I think we mentioned this last time, it's not thinly disguised gambling.
Nope.
It is genuinely free to play, and the point is to play against other soccer fans and just for the pure enjoyment of it.
And we were pretty pleased to see that we had the one league set up for people who wanted to play, the Total Soccer Show listeners. It filled up fast, and it was highly competitive.
Very fast. We got an email from Dave, is the gentleman who runs fanfutsal.com. He's also a Total Soccer Show listener.
Hi, Dave.
He's very in-house TSS, right? He said it filled up really fast, so people will have to be faster next time. The tournament will go for a few weeks. The winner will get some TSS merch, either a T-shirt or a scarf. First week result, LFC 1892 is the leader with 90 points. If your team is LFC 1892, you are the leader. There is no new tournament to enter, no TSS Premier League tournament to enter this week, but you can get a good practice week in by joining another league, get yourself going, and then when we announce the new tournament, you'll be in a good position to sort of like just get straight in there. This is like having your mortgage paperwork ready to go, and then you can bid on a house straight away.
Yep.
If you enter a tournament or a match week this week.
Yep.
How does fan futsal work though, Taylor?
It's not the usual thing where you pick a striker, you pick a midfielder. It's essentially you pick different teams to occupy different positions in a five-a-side team.
There you go.
As we've said before, if you think David De Gea, or in this case maybe Keylor Navas, is going to have a standout performance. I know we were talking about Premier League before, so we'll stick with Premier League. David De Gea is going to have a standout week.
If the whole Man United defence has a standout performance, because you get points for clean sheets in that way.
And I bet a lot of people who got a lot of points did go with Man United against Sevilla, or against, not
Swansea.
Sevilla, that was not a good game to go with. Against Swansea, David De Gea gets that shutout. The defense gets some points there.
Oh, even some fan futsal advice as well.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to evaluate opposition. I would say maybe whoever's playing West Brom, a good team to start in defense.
Every week.
Yeah.
Every week. Or at striker. Like any team that's playing West Brom, that's what you got to go for, right? You got to sort of take advantage of some weaker opposition.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so it's fan futsal.
Just play. I know you can't, but just have the actual team that's playing West Brom in every single position.
Yeah, only one team for this. So fanfutsal.com, link will be in the show notes. Sign up. Match week starts when the Premier League week starts. There's also going to be a Major League Soccer tournament coming up kind of soon. We're expecting to maybe do that next week. So Premier League and MLS.
Yep.
Thank you to Fan Futsal
for sponsoring today's episode of the Total Soccer Show. Now more Champions League.
More Champions League. Okay, so we didn't watch Bayern's 2-1 away win over Sevilla in detail. It was on the lower screen, but we kind of had our eye for any more bikes and any more Marcelo magic.
We were pretty focused on the, I'm going to call it the Madrid game at this point, to the extent that I think once we were like, oh, Ribery scored. And then it wasn't actually Ribery who scored, but still, it was that sort of reaction.
But Sevilla took the lead with a goal from Sarabia.
Yeah.
Sarabia scored after a beautiful cross from Escudero. Benatia was it Bernat?
Bernat.
It's Bernat. Spent the 2 seconds before the goal and several seconds after the goal appealing for handball.
Yep.
What do you think? Did Sarabia handball this on his way to goal?
It definitely hits his arm. I do not think it was intentional handling, or I don't think... I mean, I guess I shouldn't say he didn't gain any advantage, but I think the difference is that there's nothing, like literally nothing else he could have done, because basically he's going between the touchline and Bernat to try to get back into the play, because that ball loops across.
Yeah.
And so in trying to get back around, there's basically no gap between Sarabia and Bernat, and that's where it kind of hits Sarabia on his left side. So it hits the arm. Again, I go to Keith Costigan, who said essentially that for me that's handball, or that's no handball, arm by his side. He's not moving it to gain advantage. He's not doing the Thierry Henry slap back into play.
A part of it, like if your arm isn't there, wouldn't it just like hit your side and you carry on anyway?
I think so.
Isn't that the part of the gaining an advantage thing, right?
I think so. But, I mean, I understand why Bernat might feel hard done. I think the key thing here, as you said, is that you don't then stop and complain. And I think part of it is that maybe he recognizes that it's going to be on him. And so anytime it feels like it's 100% your fault, you sort of protest that much more loudly.
You know what he could have done is he could have listened to the Weekend Review Total Soccer Show and the Joey Jones thing of not stopping too soon.
Yeah.
He could have at least waited to protest until after Sarabia had took the shot. Could have tried to defend him in the incident between the handball and the shot.
Well, maybe that's what
he stood there with his arm in the air.
Well, maybe that's what he did in terms of listening to the show. Maybe he did that during halftime and in the second half, because he was subbed off at halftime. Probably somewhat for that goal, and then somewhat for the fact that he picked up a yellow. He was then at the risk of getting a red, and that could have been a problem.
You know who else was slightly at fault for this goal? At least in my, we've only watched this a few times, right? We don't have as deep an analysis of this as the Real Madrid game, but
I know who you're going to say, and I won't go along with you.
Thomas Muller.
He is perfect.
Bayern are in quite a compact defensive shape at this point, as Sevilla passing the ball around. As they switch it out left to Escudero, I think he's the left back, right? So he would have been advancing. Muller is convinced that he can sort of get there first and block this out. He misses it completely. That's the reason Escudero has all that time and space to put in that really nice cross to the far post. It really is Thomas Muller's fault.
It is. And it also, I think, shows a little bit of how... not necessarily like taking it for granted Bayern were, but I think relaxed is the way they were, because like we saw Arturo Vidal get injured very early on, kept trying to play through it. Thomas Muller at one point said like he probably needs to go. Vidal said no. There was another shot of him saying no, I don't need a sub.
It's just weird. Vidal should not have a say in this. I feel like if Heinkes wants to take him off, then
I don't think Heinkes was like very concerned, but maybe letting the player determine for himself. But either way, I think that if it's a much more competitive game, if you see it as like we can't like afford to lose any ground here, you make that sub quickly. And
You
similarly,
say Bayern took Sevilla lightly.
I think so, because when Thomas Muller makes that play on the ball, he's basically trying to intercept. He misses, and then Escudero takes a touch and picks his head up. And Thomas Muller just kind of is now maybe 5 or 10 yards away, but he just kind of stops and watches him.
That'll come back around.
Doesn't make an effort to, and I think that is kind of it. It's like, all right, I'm sure we'll score eventually.
You know what? Bayern won 2-1.
They did.
Thomas Muller was right.
He was.
Maybe he can see the future. That's how he's able to make all those runs.
Yes.
So, as you mentioned, Vidal does come off not long after the goal, right? James Rodriguez comes on and gets... You can't get an assist for an own goal, right?
No.
But he does. It's Rodriguez off the bench. James plays the ball out to Franck Ribéry. Ribéry puts in what would have been a not brilliant cross. It hits Jesus Navas, deflects past his own keeper, buying a level with a Jesus Navas own goal.
Yeah, it was a dramatic few minutes there. Sarabia goal in the 32nd, Vidal out in the 36th, own goal in the 37th.
There we go. Oh, it might have been his first touch then, was to set Ribéry.
There you go, man. There you go.
All right. And then...
Actually, no, I think because I saw him get dispossessed twice, and we were both sort of like, what's he doing? And then that happened. So good stuff from James Rodriguez to make up for it.
Also, the final goal comes from another one of my faves.
Yeah.
Thiago Alcantara.
It does.
With a diving header bounced off of... It kind of gets a deflection off of Sevilla.
Oh, it definitely does, yes.
I can't remember who the player is, but it's still a nice diving header from Franck Ribéry, essentially just floating across up in the air. Right? He just kind of lofts it up there. It's like, someone's going to dive in header that.
Yep. Yeah. I think he knows that back post is you can see that vulnerable channel of if I loft it to the back post, someone is going to make that run in there. Or maybe it's something they've rehearsed, but it comes from that long diagonal direct ball from Boateng. Thank you.
It's a really nice sort of switch of play from Boateng. I think, again, you'll see this at the World Cup. His sort of driven ball is really underrated as a part of Germany's weaponry going forward and Bayern's weaponry as well. He can ping a pass from centre-back in any direction.
And it's a diving header from Rafinha, I think it is.
No, it's Thiago Alcantara.
Excuse me, Thiago. I keep getting them confused.
Here's what you've done.
Because Thiago has a twin brother, right? Or a brother.
Thiago has a brother called Rafael Alcantara, who's still with Barcelona. I think he's had some injury problems. But there's also a Rafinha who plays for Bayern, who came on at half-time for Bernat to play left-back.
There we go. There we go.
It's Rafinha Alcantara is his brother, and Rafinha also plays for Bayern.
I'm very confused. Yeah. It's all too much. But either way, he goes for the diving header. I think it might have been saved by Soria, but it does take that deflection. But the header's going on target, so it's not necessarily a known goal, but the deflection definitely factors into this one again.
And we kind of back Bayern to go to the Allianz for the home leg and be okay, right? They've got their 2 away goals already.
I very quickly read Sidlow's match report.
Yeah.
So I should say skimmed it. So forgive me if I missed anything big. But his point was essentially that the fans in Seville were sort of like, yeah, okay, applause. We know how this is going. So thanks for a good Champions League run. And have a good time.
But if you're going to watch one game next Tuesday, I believe these games will be, maybe watch that one.
Yeah, so Bayern-Sevilla next Tuesday.
Oh, next Wednesday, sorry. I think they flip the match days, right?
That could be.
Yeah, that's what they
That sounds
do.
familiar.
That does sound familiar.
There we go.
Final thing on Champions League before we move on to scouting reports. Worth noting, we forgot to note this, Juventus fans applauded the Real Madrid bike.
Yeah, they did.
Credit to Juventus fans for applauding the Real Madrid bike, the Ronaldo bike, because the game was still kind of alive at that point, right? So it's not as if they were already beaten and then they just sort of begrudgingly applauded. They just saw a moment of magic and put their hands together.
Yeah, but also I think when that happens, it's like, well, that's that. That goal doesn't happen, and then we come back and score 2. That's pretty much that.
Do you think maybe Dybala got sent off so he could go and watch the replay?
I mean, maybe.
He's like, this will probably be on Reddit by now. Should go see this.
Yeah, this game
3 or 4 minutes is about the time it takes, right, for someone to upload it. So Dybala timed it just right.
I know we're going to make Juve fans, or I'm going to make Juve fans annoyed with this one, but this was the game that made me ask you, don't you think there should be a rule that the second leg team can just say nah, we're good. We'll just cap it here, 3-0 on aggregate, we're good to go.
Everybody take the week off.
Yep.
We'll stick to our Serie A title race.
Exactly.
You guys can take a week off.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind a mercy rule in the Champions League because, especially from our position, we've got to decide, do we cover that next week? Do we not? Probably
no, it's definitely self-serving that I'm promoting this idea.
It's purely for podcast purposes.
It is. It is indeed.
How are we doing with the Scouting Network, Taylor?
We have several.
I see a lot of Americans. Okay, I'm excited to do this now.
So up first in the TSS Scouting Network, we've got Colin Marshall scouting Conrad de la Fuente, the 16-year-old American attacker for Barcelona or the Barcelona Academy. Conrad scored while playing for Juvenile B at the Mediterranean International Cup, says Colin.
I believe it's Juvenil.
Juvenil.
Do you remember this last time?
Yeah.
So that's great for Conrad de la Fuente.
Juvenile.
How dare you? You certainly are. Mason Kriz is scouting Marco Farfan, the 19-year-old American left-back for the Portland Timbers. Mason says that Marco Farfan started for the Timbers in their 2-2 draw with Chicago Fire, put in a solid shift and looked much better than he did in his first 2 matches this season. Neither goal was his fault, and he looked much more willing to get forward. The roller coaster ride continues.
Mike Spinelli scouting George Bello, the 16-year-old American left back for Atlanta United 2. Listeners, that noise you could not hear was Daryl putting his fist in the air in celebration because 16-year-old George Bello made his professional debut with Atlanta United 2 this weekend. He looked like he belonged on the pitch with grown men and was even briefly credited with a goal after receiving a pass, charging toward goal, losing possession at the 18, and then clattering the ball off of a much older defender and into the net for an own goal. Scuffed gave the youngster the gift treatment for his trouble. Did I mention, says Mike, that he's only 16?
So
this was edited down. There were a lot of references to young and old in this one.
Every time I see George Bello, he's playing left back and somehow takes over the game. Mm-hmm. He's now done this against grown men for Atlanta United 2.
Yeah.
I've been calling him American Maldini just because he was a promising left back and it was kind of tongue-in-cheek. Mm-hmm. I'm going to non-tongue-in-cheek call him future American Marcelo.
Oh, boy.
Yeah?
Oh, boy.
Go on, George Bello.
That's good. That's good, Daryl. Just increase that hype. That never goes wrong.
Also in this game, Michael Harris was scouting Lagos Kunga, the 19-year-old American right winger for Atlanta United 2. Michael says Lagos Kunga went the distance in that 2-2 draw against the Charlotte Independents. Towards the end of a long ball filled second half. Lagos, hyphens are important.
Yep.
Lagos joined fellow homegrown player George Bello, whose goal was later changed to an own goal, but Michael refuses to acknowledge that, on the scoreboard with an amazing solo goal showing a mix of strength and skill. His goal made it 2-1 for Atlanta, but Charlotte tied it up soon afterwards, wasting the magic from Lagos Kunga. I've seen this goal. He really does dribble along the end line all the way and then slips it inside the near post.
That'll work.
Some good stuff from Lagos Kunga.
Well done, Lagos. Mm-hmm. And adequate stuff, George. Brian Hoysa scouting Serginho Dest, 17-year-old American defender at Ajax. Serginho was called up by the US U20s and spent the international break with them in Spain, where his defense contributed to a clean sheet and a 1-0 victory over France's U21s. Well done, Serginho.
Yeah.
Back with Ajax's U19s over the weekend. Less well done, Serginho. He was sent off in the 45th minute for his second yellow as the Ajax U19s beat Den Haag U19s 7-2.
7-2?
Which is not how Serginho wanted to follow up his performance from their previous league match where he had an assist in their 3-3 draw with the Utrecht U19s.
And if that name sounds familiar, Serginho Dest was the U17 right back for the US at the U17 World Cup. He's with the Ajax Academy, so we were all kind of excited about him. He is definitely one to watch because I remember us first being aware of him. He was with the U15s, 16s, 17s, 19s. He's kind of up there every year. He's getting promoted and promoted and promoted.
You are correct,
although the red card might slow him down a bit. Ed Ritter is scouting Ben Mines, the 17-year-old American attacker for Red Bulls 2. Remember Mines scoring in MLS. Mines played the full 90 in Red Bull 2's 5-2 victory over the Charleston Battery in the USL. Ben earned and then dispatched a penalty in the 43rd minute and knocked home New York's third goal as well.
Alex Tremel scouting Gianluca Busio, 15-year-old American midfielder for Sporting KC. Is he a future somebody?
He's a future Gianluca Busio.
Okay. Oh, all right. He gets to be himself.
He's one of a kind.
Gianluca played in all 5 of Sporting KC's U17 Generation Adidas Cup games. Sporting lost all 3 of their group stage games in the remaining 2 consolation games. Not surprisingly, against TFC in Portland, Busio led SKC to victory with a free kick goal in each. I say not surprisingly because it was not a strong tournament for MLS clubs at the Generation Adidas Cup. Travis and I will be talking more about that and the Dallas Cup on this week's episode of the Top Drawer Soccer Show, which will be out Thursday.
Go subscribe to the Top Drawer Soccer Show. Jake Lamar is scouting Austin Trusty, the 19-year-old American centre-back for the Philadelphia Union. Jake says that Trusty went the full 90 in the 3-0 loss on the road against the Colorado Rapids. Trusty was part of the youngest starting backline in league history. Left-back Matthew Real was 18, left centre-back Trusty was 19, right centre-back Jack Elliott was 22, and right-back Keegan Rosenberry is 24. The old man Keegan Rosenberry at 24. The goals were never Trusty's entire fault. That's a bit of a qualifier. But for the first time this season, he looked uncomfortable on the ball. In the post-match interview, he spoke about how important it is that the Union believe in the hashtag #PlayYourKids movement. Hashtag Trusty the process.
And that was in there too. I think I trimmed that one off. We're sure it's Matt Real, right?
No, but everyone seems to be pronouncing it Real, so we're going with it.
Okay, that's good to know, because Andy Jowenson scouting Matt Real, the 18-year-old American left back for the Philadelphia Union. Real made his MLS debut in the Union's 3-0 loss to the Colorado Rapids this past weekend and put in a strong 75-minute performance, saving a would-be goal on the line to keep the Rapids scoreless going into halftime. Despite the second-half hat trick by the Rapids, Real showed great instincts, and the Union can be optimistic about playing the kids, as we said before. Should we keep this one just Americans and do all of the rest of the scouting reports that we have tomorrow, or should we keep going? How say you?
I think because we have a league game kicking off in about 40 minutes, we should probably end the Scouting Network reports there and do the rest tomorrow. How about that?
Fine. But thank you to everybody else who sent in scouting reports. We will get to you tomorrow. John, Willie, Dylan, Charles, Brobot, Mark, and several other folks.
We have someone called Brobot?
Apparently.
All right. Well, thank you to everybody for listening. If you want to join the Scouting Network, it's totalsoccershow.com/join. Go sign up for Fan Futsal, fanfutsal.com. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to watch the Champions League and then talk to me today.
All of that, too, for you, my friend.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll be back tomorrow to talk Liverpool, Manchester City after the first leg.